The topic of water is big, so we thought we would kind of focus our conversation today on water risk and stewardship. So we packed this slide with some information. Geosyntec, we're about 1,800 engineers and scientists across the US, and then we do have some global offices as well. I would say that our focus is generally on providing our public and private sector clients with solutions for water and natural resources management challenges that they have. We were established in 1983. Geosyntec is actually from a geosynthetic membrane that we designed for some advanced landfill engineering projects. And since then, we've evolved. Our DNA has evolved into groundwater, water, surface water, and beyond. So my background, in grad school, I worked for the TCEQ. I've really been driven by all things related to environmental compliance, regulatory, planning, and so this is a great fit for us to talk about this today. I've been with Geosyntec for a few years, but my career, I've worked over 17 years consulting within public and private sector, providing advisory services throughout. Michaela?
Hi, I'm Michaela McKenzie. I've worked in industry and consulting for the last 12 years. Most of it has been in water and wastewater. So like Lori, I do a lot of permitting as well as technical solutions related to source water, stormwater, wastewater treatment, all of the above.
Let's move on. Okay, so as far as water risk and continuity of service, we thought we would kind of focus our conversation on this, being that we have Ochsner and the city on. So kind of covering the public and private sector considerations. One of the biggest risks for water supply is the competition for secure water supply against the economic development that's happening around. We'll kind of dig into that a little bit. As Ron mentioned, natural disasters, we understand, especially, Gulf Coast coastal cities and Louisiana are prone to multiple challenges with water supply due to natural disasters. For example, with flooding, you've got pump failures, all sorts of challenges that you may have there on your intakes, and so on and so forth. And then aging infrastructure, all of our public cities are facing this. Private companies, including Ochsner and others, industry connecting to public infrastructure, there are challenges with that. So let's move on to the next one here. So one common theme, I heard you mention that you've got assets now in Florida, Alabama, Mississippi as well, but saltwater intrusion's a big emerging challenge for public water supply. In Louisiana specifically, there's a lot of salt dome deterioration, the deeper dredging, which is that commercial development kind of challenge, and then upstate drought conditions are all triggering the saltwater creep, which then necessitates a need for large capital projects to mitigate that. In Florida, the challenge is similar. There's through population growth, there's a depletion of the fresh groundwater with the pumping and overuse of the water. In addition, all of these coastal communities have sea level rise coming in. California, they are severely challenged. 2/3 of their water supply is in immediate risk because of being in the longest drought in 1,200 years and sea level rise. So this is happening at everybody's doorsteps. And, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the tools that can be used to kind of identify where you are in this risk register. We've provided a variety of kind of risk management mitigation services to different clients, public and private, depending on, what the kind of driving considerations are for them. So it's all specific to, your location, but the approach can be applied universally.
So I'm going to follow up on what Lori said about water risk and how it's defined. So there's several different models and organizations that work to define water risk, and they generally follow the same framework where you look at the physical quantity, so the amount of water available in your area, the quality, so is that water treated or untreated? When it's discharged, is it causing any local or like ocean issues like eutrophication and fish kills, which I'm sure is all very familiar to you guys being near the Mississippi River. Then there's also regulatory and reputational risks, as far as drinking water, and then ESG risks. So all of these different categories and factors get rolled up into an overall water risk score. So there are several publicly available tools you can use to determine your own location's water risk and the factors that influence that risk category. So what I've done is I've just shown Louisiana, South Louisiana, where you guys are located. Your overall water risk is somewhere between low to medium because water is plentiful in the area. But you can see that you do have large risk factors around flooding. And as Lori covered, flooding can affect your water supply and your infrastructure, as well as it can affect things like power and pumps and the ability to get water to all of your customers. And definitely when thinking about hospitals, is that water safe and healthy to use in a medical application? And then this tool, you can zoom out to the whole country and the world and kind of see where your risk falls in comparison to the rest of the United States and globally. And you can even see what's happening upstream of you, and are those factors going to eventually affect you later? For the people on the call, does New Orleans, have you guys assessed your water risk?
This is Sharon. I've never used this particular tool to do that. And our water is we have there's a quasi city state agency that manages the water, but I haven't used this particular tool.
Okay, yeah, and there's some other tools that are available, and Geosyntec's available to help you guys use these tools and define your risk.
And then the same for Ochsner. We're curious, how deep y'all have dug into water risk.
I know we do have water quality issues, and one of our campuses is at the end of the line. They particularly have some challenges. We haven't started, I think, really digging into this like we should. So this is really helpful, and some of this is new information.
Great. Yeah, like I said, we really just try to look at facility specific or, operational specific priorities, and then figure out what's the best fit tool, how would this apply. But it's a good opportunity to get an overview of what you're facing and to kind of summarize it for some of those stakeholders, in communicating.
Yeah, we probably don't even have all the right people. I think the facilities department would probably have just a better grasp of the situation. But I know as we start to move to, getting rid of plastic water bottles, we're going to have to add more hydration stations, and we have pushback on hydration stations because of, the quality of water and having potential issues that arise. So I know that's something that has come up as I've said, hey, we need to get reusable water bottles.
Yeah.
Really, we don't want to have more of those things. So yeah, we probably need to bring in some more folks to talk about that. But For us, this is a great overview. Thank you.
Great, sure. Yeah, so then one of the things that we do in evaluating this risk, if we're looking at the facility or if we're supporting municipalities, we'll kind of go through a water use audit. And so this, again, may be something to talk through with your facilities folks. What are the prioritized demands? What can we kind of limit? What are our alternatives? We do a lot of this also for public sector through AWIA, which is American Water Infrastructure Act. They have and that might be the next slide, Michaela. Yeah. So we do these source water protection evaluations and emergency response plans. This is more on the public sector side, but same process applies where we figure out exactly what the specific risks are, how to mitigate it, through practical measures. It can vary from emerging contaminants, business continuity challenges, priorities, infrastructure planning issues, climate resiliency, and then incorporating any emergency response measures that you need into, interruptions in your water supply. So, and for the city, I know you're one of the larger parties in the AWIA emergency response planning and risk assessment group. So sure, your folks have been through this plenty of times, but
So now we're going to move on and talk a little bit more about water stewardship and minimization, kind of building on, we talked about how do you assess and identify your water risk, and then how do you use that information to make a water stewardship plan. And so a lot of this is going to be working between private and public and using those EPA resources to figure out, what exactly is the risk in my area and what should I do to mitigate those risks. There's no, you definitely want to tailor your solutions to your problems and not start creating solutions for problems that don't actually exist in your area. So you're going to look at your performance record of your water quality, understanding your business risks. So you guys were already talking about hydration stations and what are the risk factors to think about, possibly, Legionella bacteria, water quality. Do we need, localized treatment for that hospital or at each water station? You want to show if there's any evidence of innovation and how can you apply innovation to your solutions. So I kind of already talked about why it's important, but if you're building future facilities, you want to consider what's the water like in the area where I'm building a facility. Is there flood risk? Is there water available? How does that affect the cost of our infrastructure? Definitely getting different kinds of certifications can look good for your municipalities and your organizations. And in general, you'll just be demonstrating social responsibility, which can probably help from a PR perspective as well. So one stewardship assessment tool I'm familiar with, it's called the Alliance for Water Stewardship. If you're familiar with ISO, it's a similar type of standard where it helps you step through the entire process of assessing your water dependencies and your impacts, your supply chain and your water risks. And then it helps you build relationships with your water related stakeholders and put in solutions for helping with your water supply, whether it's internally or by partnering with public and other private organizations to improve the water in your whole region. There are other tools like the Water Council also has WAVE So we can definitely help you guys implement these stewardship analysis and figure out what solutions you want to solve and how to solve them.